Welcome to this 5th of December 2020. We are joined here in this Sparcast by somebody that I've had the benefit and the good grace of knowing for a couple years now, Dipika Gurnani. Oh, that was pretty good, actually. I'm pretty happy with that one. That could have gone way worse. You can find some really cool photography online on Instagram, Tales by Dipika on Instagram. So go check it out. But of course, you know, the prime reason why we are here is to talk about BJJ and this second lockdown here in London. So Dipika, if you don't mind, I'd be really grateful if you could take a few minutes and just give us a bit of information about you. We want to know about you, your background, why you started doing BJJ, what you do outside of BJJ. Give it to us.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Ryan. So I started martial arts when I was 5, and the story is very funny. I was in primary school in India at that time because my mom's Indian, and we had, you know, extracurricular activities that we could pick, one of which happened to be ballet. And ballet was taught in this little small classroom that was always overlooking the playground of the children. Now, my mom really wanted me to do the whole ballet kind of journey. And my first class, I found the tutu very irritating. I thought, this is net, it's itchy and I don't like it. And plus they make me go on my toes, which is something that is very painful. And I used to always look through the window and see these little kids in their kimonos just doing karate. And I was fascinated by that. And then every day, every evening that my mom used to take me to the ballet class, I said, Mom, I don't want to go ballet class. I just don't want to do it. And she, you know, the first few days she was thinking maybe it's just me being shy, or that, you know, I didn't want to be away from her. So she kind of pushed me. And towards the 5th class, I really was just nagging on her and saying, I don't want to do this. I want to do what the kids are doing outside. But by the time she used to pick me up, she didn't know what were the kids doing outside because they had wrapped up. So then I told her, oh, they wear a white thing and they cross it over and they've got a belt and it's all colors. And she said, oh, karate. And she was like, nah, but you're a girl. And I thought, no, but it's really cool. I see girls doing it. So yeah, she, you know, took my name off ballet, put me in karate. And then I did it for many, many years up until the age of 10. Then I had enough of it. And I said, I don't want to do martial arts anymore. And then for that, between the age of 10 and 13 or 14, I explored other sports. So I did swimming, I did tennis, I did athletics, and I deeply fell in love with athletics, for which I competed as well. And I competed in swimming, all national level. And this is now back in Spain. So we moved back. And then I missed it. I missed martial arts again. And then I went back into karate. And then I did it for solid, maybe 7 years solidly. I didn't stop.
Did you compete?
Always something that was lacking. And then this is now in uni when I'm here in London. I remember we used to go compete to Sheffield for these bucks competitions, all these inter-university competitions, and the karate minibus was full. So I was sitting in the judo minibus, and the judo coach, my judo coach back then, Boris, amazing man, Boris Kibrik, shout out to Boris. He was eating grapes and he offered me grapes, but I just dodged off and I went, why do you have so much meat on your ears? And I couldn't understand. They were cauliflower ears at that time. And he was, I do judo. And I was like, oh my God, you do judo? Like, what is it? And I was really curious. So there was a year where I was combining karate and judo. And then I think more and more my love towards judo started growing. And then it got to a point where I had to make a very, very tough decision and make a tough call to go to my sensei and be like, I love karate and I feel I'm being disloyal by saying I don't want to do it anymore. But I think my love for it has died down. But I really love judo, so I'm gonna go judo now. So anyways, I went judo and absolutely loved it. And in one of the competitions that I did at the London Open, and I think it was 2012 or 13, academic year 12-13, one of my opponents, who I was an orange belt and she happened to be a black belt, and this was like open category for people to compete. She threw me on the ground and I basically went on my back, and my coach was like, no, go get some ground skills. Terrible, who taught you Newaza is this way? So anyways, next to Middlesex, which is where I used to study, they had Mill Hill BJJ, and I thought, let me go try out Jiu-Jitsu because sounds like it's ground skills that I'm going to get out of it. And then I combined judo and jiu-jitsu together for many years, and I had to take a break from judo because of an injury, but the idea is to continue doing both. So this is my short, very long story into jiu-jitsu.
That's fantastic. I seem to recall seeing an Instagram post by you where you were doing some band work. I see a lot of this type of thing happening in the last year because people are having to find ways to train that don't involve another person. And it struck me that watching you do the band work, for those who don't know, it's basically some like latex bands that are varying resistances based on color. And you can attach them to things and you can do sort of repetitions of throwing mechanisms over and over using these bands, and they can be quite useful. And it struck me watching you do this, it's quite similar to dance in a way. And you said, well, you said you did ballet, although it didn't sound like you did it for very long.
No, I don't do ballet.
Do you see any kind of connection between dancing and judo or dancing and BJJ?
More in judo than BJJ, I would say. When I used to do judo initially, yes, it's basically, I had a teammate. So bearing in mind, I was most of the times the only girl in judo, because no one would ever stick to the sport, which is understanding. So I had a Portuguese Angolan training partner who happened to be more or less of my weight, and he's in love with like salsa. So he used to always go, relax, Dipika, relax. It's just like salsa. And we used to just do our uchikomis in a very dancey way. And at the beginning I was like, you're so weird. Why are you doing this? But then I really understood it. It's like dancing because you're letting your hips loose and moving your feet and still feeling your opponent. But the only difference is that you throw the person, whereas in dance you wouldn't. Or if you were, you would just catch the person, right? In a very gentle way. So there's a huge similarity between mimicking a dance choreography and judo. So yeah, and that band work, as you all can feel it, without training, some of us are crawling up the walls. And I am one of the many who can't wait to get back on the mats. And, you know, I was trying to find an activity that involves a simulation to what it's like to having a partner. So in fact, it was my judo coach whom I called, and he said, just grab a band, tie it around a pole and start doing your uchikomi. So this way you're not losing the technique. And this way you're not rusty for when we're actually able to go back on the mats.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't come from a dance background, but I can certainly see what you're saying. And I think that looseness in the hips, when you're doing things like passing guard, or when you're trying to stop from being swept, for example, the really top level people have an ability to move their hips independently from their upper bodies in a way that allows them to backstep effectively, or, you know, knee cut. It's really quite amazing to watch people who have that looseness in the hips when they compete. It's amazing. I wish I had it. I wish I was better at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you develop a certain agility to it, and it was not long ago that I heard that when you're a white belt, a blue belt, up until purple, you're only aware of what you're doing. Once you grow, which is what you can confirm, and you as well, Ryan, that once you become a higher belt, you can also have that foresight for what the opponent is going to do, but also feel the opponent. So it's not so much you anymore. It's about you being aware of the environment and the surrounding. And I thought, I can't wait.
You don't feel you do that?
I do sense it. However, the way I heard it, it was that you master it to the point where you pick it up seconds before the person is going to make a move. Whereas for me, it's maybe a nanosecond.
Yeah.
I mostly look at the way they breathe. And if they do, like, I know they're holding their breath to do something explosive. So that this is when I can anticipate that they might be doing a move.
It's like telepathy, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Right? And I think sometimes when, especially brand new white belts, when they do some sparring and they feel like their opponent knows what they're going to do before they do it, it's because of those things you're talking about. It's like the deep breath and holding their lungs. It's certain movements. It's tension in their bodies in a certain way. You know that somebody's going to move in a certain way. It's a little bit like telepathy, when in fact it's more like just reading body language, effective at reading people's intentions through their body language, even when they don't know they're giving you those intentions.
Yes. Yes.
I have a question for you. I thought that it was interesting when you switched from karate to judo, and because I think it's something that a lot of people in martial arts experience at some point. You've been with a teacher or a club or school for a long time, and you've developed a relationship, and it's like it's an interesting relationship. You're like family, or it's like a parent-child relationship, or a teacher-student relationship, or brother, sister, brother. It's something very close, and to say I'm leaving now is a big thing. And I think it's a big thing for the teacher too, if you really love your students and you have this close relationship. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that and see if there's how that was for you, and if you're still in touch with your karate teacher, or you have, what's your relationship like?
Yeah, so the first time I had to say goodbye to my first former karate sensei, who's now a Shihan, because I think he's like 6 dan black belt. I was going to uni, so I was technically saying goodbye to him, but with the intention of always returning back to the dojo when I had Christmas break or summer break. But it was truly heartbreaking because I was crying. And I was telling him, I know I'm not going to find anyone like this family. And it is true, because whilst you may find another family, it's not like that family. It's still a good family that you find outside. But so yeah, with him, I still keep in touch. In fact, I regularly contact him. And for him, he had peace of mind knowing that when I moved to London for education, I was still going to do karate. So for him, it was like, okay, she's doing it, but somewhere else. Whereas I'm still going to be her main Shihan. But the situation was different when I had my sensei here, because it's telling him I'm quitting karate, and I'm also going to a team that trains next door to you that is part of the same university. So it was just like, at the beginning I felt it's a massive guilt trip that I had.
Yeah.
So I was switching between two. So I was doing, for instance, Monday, Wednesday karate, Tuesday, Thursday judo. But then my body was exhausted. Even though I was 21, 22 then, it's quite demanding. to do one already, that imagine like two. So with him, the reason why I didn't keep in touch is because I lost his number, and he's not on Facebook, he's not on Instagram, he's not a social media person. But I know that if I wanted to reach out with him, I would have to maybe call the Karate Association, because he's like the chair or something. But with him, my relationship was different because it was a university team. So I think when a university team, you see so many people come in and out on yearly basis. There's only a few that you will see throughout your entire life. And I was maybe one of those that he saw for 2 years and then just switched to judo. So that my relationship wasn't as close to him. But I've noticed there's a rivalry between karate and other martial arts. I don't know if I like.
Yeah, I did probably about 6 months of karate when I was a little kid. I did it because at that time, the Karate Kid was a relatively new phenomenon. This is back in the early 80s, let's say. Yes, I am that old. And I did it because I thought, oh man, this is cool. It's got to be just like what I saw in the movie, like, you know, this older Japanese guy, and he's going to teach me how to be not only like a martial arts master, but also to like have confidence in myself. And the reality was I went to a dojo that was absolutely wall-to-wall other little kids, all of them of varying different abilities, and not only abilities in martial arts, but also abilities to pay attention. And it was a massive babysitting exercise for the teachers who, you know, might have had the best intentions, but man, for me anyway, doing 45 minutes of katas, and I get that's why, I understand why they do it. I get it, right? Yeah. It makes sense.
The bunkai, which is the application of.
Yes, but when you're 6, all you want to do is punch someone, right? That's what you want to do, and that's what I wanted to do. But there was never any of that. It was just punching and kicking the air in a very prescribed manner. And this is not me taking the mick out of karate. I think it's a brilliant martial art. It's wonderful, but it was a bad fit for me. And I left that being 7 years old or whatever, thinking I just hated martial arts. Clearly, I've tried it out. I hate this. It just must not be my thing. So I just thought for the rest of my life, never going to touch it again.
So then how did you do the switch from karate to?
So I did wrestling in high school. Was what the next martial art I did was wrestling. And that from the very first class, I fell in love with it because there are no katas in wrestling. The very first minute of your first class, you are in there wrestling against another human being. You're gonna get beat up pretty badly, but at least for me, there was that, like, you know, that tactile response, you know, and that I was hooked from literally day one. I was hooked. Yeah.
Wrestling is amazing.
Yeah.
And talking about tactile, I was gonna add, which came to my mind as you were speaking. In karate, what I noticed was that it's not, and this is not me dissing the sport, because I absolutely love that sport. And you know, when they say don't forget where you came from, that is my foundation, really. So my roots and my foundation were given to me by my first shihan, and this is why I have that martial art, one of the many traits, I wouldn't say all, but discipline and love and respect for it. But there was always that lack of gripping. I was like, I want to just grip someone. I just want to grip it. And then I used to get because I competed as well in karate. Once I got disqualified because I grabbed her with my gloves. I was trying to grab her and they were like, oh, Tachui, like blah, blah, blah. Disqualified. And I was crying and I was like, oh, I didn't mean to do it. But then I realized it's my body. It's like instinctively my body's trying to say, you want to grip. Because it felt for me more tangible to just apply the movement rather than do the kata.
I get it.
Get it. It's
Or,
fun. Yeah, what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was going to say, let's watch a video.
Oh, yes.
So, I'd like to point out, so we are going to watch, this is really exciting. We are going to watch some competition videos of Dipika's. And I'd like to point out that Ryan and I have not seen a single second of these. So we are watching it live with you, our lovely viewers. And so this is going to be really interesting. And also, I think this is the first time on Sparcast we've had actual competition videos rather than just sparring. And anybody who has ever sparred and competed knows competition is a completely different animal to sparring. Absolutely miles apart. It's more stressful, it's more energetic, it's more tiring, but in a way it's more rewarding as well. So win or lose, it is an important part of what we do here in the sport, and I'm really excited to see this.
So you, in these videos, you're a white belt, right, Dipika?
Yes, so this is my first jiu-jitsu competition.
Oh wow! But
Wow.
you're a white belt in jiu-jitsu, but you've been doing judo for a while, right?
Yeah, so yes. So I'm a green, yeah, I forget. I'm a green belt in judo.
Like now or in the video?
In the video, I was an orange belt in judo, I think.
I don't know the judo belts, but sounds like a high belt to me.
And we should point out that you're a blue belt in BJJ now. Yes,
No, yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Almost purple.
Well,
Knocking on the door purple? I don't know. It's a question, not a statement, by the way. I don't know.
I don't know. Oh, well, so I have a one stripe on my blue belt, and I've been asking people, do you really think I'm a one stripe blue belt? Because I don't think so. That's for my coach to judge, but I feel like because of COVID, I may have missed out a few stripes. I do feel maybe I need another solid year of blue, but it all depends on how much I'm able to train as well.
Makes sense.
But I'm happy to stay in the blue belt for as long as the coach thinks it's the time.
All right.
But yeah. So in this
watch
video is my first competition as a jiu-jitsu white belt. I was asking to compete before, but Nick from Mill Hill advised me that whilst I did have a competitive background, he wanted me to learn all the foundation of jiu-jitsu. And he thought that this one could have been a good one because it was Cleo's, it was a friendly one, it was organized by the black belts from Michael Hawkins and Daniel Strauss from Mill Hill. So it was a good way for me to get started.
Makes sense.
So here we go. This is the beginning of one match.
And I'm refereed by Oliver Geddes.
Oh, by Oli. Okay, and you are black gi, yes?
Yes, black gi.
Yeah, walking straight up right into that. I love it. No fear. You just walked like straight into her. I love it. Good solid hips.
For me, yeah, is that I wasn't scared of takedowns. I was like, okay, take me down.
Yeah.
So my foot was stuck here.
Yeah.
And I was trying to cross face her so I could flatten her out to get my knee out. But she's moving, right? So it felt like a tug of war where she's moving, I'm trying to get my leg out, and I'm trying to move.
Yeah, if you wanna pause this here for a moment, this is really good. So this is beautiful, by the way. You, like I said, you walk straight in, no fear whatsoever. You're trying to get those dominant grips. She pulled guard right away because you know BJJ people, they love that kind of thing. She looks like she's trying to get something like a lockdown on your leg.
Looks like she has a lockdown.
Yeah, but it's actually wrong side lockdown. So it's a lockdown with a lockdown on the outside, where, in my opinion, and I think the more sort of lockdown centric styles tend to want to be locked down on the inside of the leg rather than the outside. And Dipika, like you say, you're trying to get this cross face, right? Like you're trying to get that shoulder in the face, and in doing so, if you see, look how you're forcing her to look to her right, while her hips are going to the left.
Yeah, because underneath my chin, you can see the white piece of the tatami. It's where I'm pushing my shoulder into her chin.
Yeah.
Oh, look,
Yeah.
there's Yusuf in the background there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Yusuf.
And Luke.
And Ed Ingemels is standing there with bare feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I realized it was Ross Nichols that was refereeing.
very good.
So she's
So-
starting to escape out the back here.
Yeah. And I think it's because, so this is where your judo sensibilities are shining through, because you've lost the underhook, right? Like, and judo people, they do this. And again, it's not a criticism. I'm not a judoka, so I'm not privileged to have all of the training there. But judoka seem to me to be, they give up that underhook really easily in half guard.
Because we're taught kezagatami, which is a scarf hold with your hips pointing outwards. So it's like a knee slice. You end up in like a knee slice outwards position, but you really miss the underhook, which is a shame because you're holding onto the head.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So what are you thinking here now, Dipika? What do you want to achieve? Do you have a thought in your mind of what you're trying to get?
I was trying to get mount. This whole time I was trying to get mount.
There's the underhook.
You got the underhook.
Yeah, I finally got it. I remember. And I'm going.
Why did
Smash, smash.
You see, I'm trying to get my leg out so I can do mount.
Yeah. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, you'll get it.
There's three-quarter mount here.
Yeah,
and just suffocating, like you're drawing her elbows up away from her body. It's exhausting. There it is.
Yeah.
But then I didn't hold it.
That's 4 points.
Oh no!
That's 4. That should have been. I would have given that to you.
He didn't give me the 4 points.
No, but you're up by 2 advantages here.
So here I am trying to either do triangle, but I'm trying to break her posture here.
Yeah.
And my forearms were blowing up.
Oh yeah.
How was that? Dear Lord, I can't grip any harder. Can't she just come down? I'm trying to do a cross choke.
Yeah.
And
You've
then
got her arm exposed there.
you can't see, but on my right hand side of the mat is Chris Hearn, Rubber Bandido, coaching me, going, break our posture. But obviously, no one can hear it when you're competing. You can't hear anything.
Yeah. It's tough. It's difficult.
So he's like, come on, Dips, change your angle. So I know he was coaching me, but I couldn't hear anything in that moment.
I mean, she has very good posture. It's she's definitely in it to win it, right? Like she is not a person who is at all unexperienced. So it's going to be a tough fight for you no matter what. Is that the end of the first?
It is, but can you see this one now? Or hold on, I think I need to switch. Yeah, so that's half of the first match. And I think, give me a second here. Oh, no, that's not the right one. New share. Which one is it?
That's a pretty derpy photo of your opponent there. I like it.
Watching this just makes me want to compete.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. This is the second half.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to get the cross choke, but I need to move my angle. I need to be more sideways rather than that square.
And I think if you pause it for me, I think that right now you're using your arms to break the posture.
Whereas I should be using my knees.
Yeah, you should be using your hips. And using the fact that she's sitting almost completely upright. So she's really high and really tall. And if you were to pinch your knees in and lift up and forward with your legs, she would collapse right on top of you. And this is something that's difficult to teach people because it doesn't feel natural to do. You feel like you want to pull the person with your arms, and then that's why your forearms get blown out.
she was very strong, I must say. Very strong opponent. I don't even know her name, but she made me work hard.
Oh,
If you're
wow, she
watching
got all
this,
that.
if you are Dipika's opponent and you're watching this, contact us. We want to
Yeah,
be able to
please.
get you on the.
She broke the guard. But as an aside, how come refs always stand right in front of the camera?
They teach you that in ref school, actually.
So I don't know what I'm doing with my left hand, but I should have just gripped her leg.
Oh.
Do a tripod.
Oh.
Ah, good. Very good. Good instincts. Oh, yes.
Oh.
Excellent. Dipika, here we go. Did you know what you had here?
Yes, and I couldn't get it, and it was tiring. My arms were blowing up.
Throw
I
that
felt like I
leg
couldn't grip
over.
it more. I was so exhausted by then, and I was very tired.
Yeah. You were probably holding your breath the entire time as well,
Yes.
which is something that all of us struggle with, even those of us who've competed a lot.
And I wish in that moment I could have just done this, because my forearms were really painful in that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to pull it down, but then I also in that moment I was thinking, push your hips forward so you narrow that gap. But I couldn't even manage to, because I felt like if I opened my legs to base and close the guard, she would have escaped. So here you can tell I need to, work on my hooks.
Nice guard
Oh,
recovery,
it's
though.
beautiful shoulder
yeah.
rolling. Look at this. It's gorgeous.
I was trying to invert.
Yeah.
Oh,
You take it
oh.
back, and then
Oh, no. Ah, unlucky. Unlucky.
Yeah, and you can see
even now, I can
Oh.
feel like my adrenaline picking up just watching the video of you competing. So,
by the way, she didn't choke me. Just an FYI.
no, yeah, you ran out of time.
Yeah.
No, you ran out of time.
It's too bad because you were
So
actually doing.
Did she win that one?
Yeah, sadly,
Yeah,
I lost both
yeah,
fights.
she got 4 points for the back.
For the back leg at the very end, but I mean, actually, you were winning that fight for 90% of the fight.
I remember Ed Ingemers afterwards, after the comp, he messaged me on Facebook, like this private message, and that was like a massive paragraph saying, I am so sorry for what just happened. You did really well and you were confident and you did the right things, but it just was down to a few very small details that made you lose. And he really helped me break down the match. And he made me understand things that I had to work on afterwards, like mount retention, underhook, making sure that I was pulling with my legs rather than just my arms, and then changing my angle to do the cross choke. And then Chris Hearn helped me more with the cross chokes, and also with knowing what to do with my legs when they open my guard and not just stay there like a spider, but just be more active with the hooks, maybe grip behind the knee and then hold so you can do a tripod sweep. Yeah, and a fun thing I wanted to say is, I don't know if you guys saw in the video, there's like a orange patch on my knee.
No, I didn't see that.
One of the patches that I saw just before the competition is because Ed was giving out his patches to all his students. And he was like, well, just make sure, it's in a visible area. And at night, just before the comp, I was like, where do I put it that is visible? And I was like, we are right on the knee. So that's where I'd sewn the patch.
Yeah, nice. One of the things from judo that I really like is the concept of the kuzushi, the off balancing. And I think that in competition, it's even more important, because if you go balls to the wall the entire 5 minutes, you will be exhausted. Almost, halfway through, you're going to be exhausted. And so there were plenty of times there where you were just having this tug of war with her, trying to pull her over, and she's pulling back. And it's really about who is stronger. And if you take a moment instead to just relax, let her come forward, then pull her. And then when she resists, let go, she goes back. and you can use that like instinct of people to resist movement to make your counter movement more effective.
Exactly.
I mean, I know I'm just explaining Kuzushi. But just for those of us who maybe haven't trained as much, that idea that if you want, so for example, if you want somebody to move into you, you don't pull them, you push them. And then their response to that will be to push back into you, and then you move them. You know what I mean? And I think that in guard, that's even more important. It's almost more important in full guard when you're on the bottom, because people will do that like really hard posturing and get really stiff and all of that. And being able to change your angle, to pull, but also push, to do that like threaten a hip bump sweep, make the person come into you, then break the posture. Yeah. Then you're not exhausting yourself,
Correct. I remember the way I simplified it for me when they first told me about, understanding the mechanics of your opponent is, the way I understood was, you use your opponent's weaknesses to your advantage. So their off balances are going to be your balancing points. And judo, but then again in practice, because theory, you do it in class, but what I notice in competition, even though you've competed a lot, it's still a muscle that needs to be worked on, which is applying what you've learned in class on the mats in a competition. Because suddenly when you're on the mats, you go tunnel vision and you forget all those details that you were drilling in class. And then you just stick to maybe one or two things, and then when you've come out of that fight, you go, that's what I should have done. And that's when you get your hindsight moment.
Yeah, I think in competition, you only have what you have trained so much that it's just deeply ingrained in your body, and you don't have to think about it at all. That's like you drop down to that level, whatever is just automatic. That's what you have.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
So I understand we have another video as well.
Yeah, let's watch the second one.
Oh, good. Another one. Is this competition as well?
Yeah, same competition, second fight.
Second fight, okay.
I also lost. And that's what I remember telling you prior to this, that it's such a shame that all the videos I have are fights that I've lost, because of fights that I've won. Like my fastest match in judo was 6 seconds, and we tried to do an ogoshi. I blocked my hips, I put my foot forward, and I did I forgot the name of the throw. Anyways, it's like an ogoshi, but you put your foot on the side. And that was 6 seconds, and everyone was clapping for me, and I thought, no one recorded that. Stop clapping for me.
Oh no, you don't have a recording.
No.
Do you have any recordings of any of your judo competitions or judo matches?
I believe my coach may be having some.
I'd like to see those as well. I really enjoy judo, and in many ways I prefer watching judo. I find it more dynamic than BJJ.
It's a lot more scarier as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the time that I scored half a point, half a point with a Team GB black belt who just rocked up to this London Open because she wanted to get extra points to add up. And I thought, wait, did I just score a wasabi with her? And then no.
Oh, see if you can get these videos. I'd love to see them.
So here, I believe this is the second fight.
All right, both have blackies. Here we go.
I'm usually always the one to grip first.
Yeah, look at that. And again, guard pull. They do not want to be fighting you on the feet. I mean, I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to fight you on the feet.
Easy pass.
Oh, yeah. Your points there, they are.
Yeah. And then I remember being here and thinking, what do I do now? Like I was just blank, and I was just and I don't know if he asked me to stop stalling or something, but I was just like, and now how do I transition to mount? Because my game in that particular fight was to work on my mount. So I wanted to get on mount and work on that, either through knee and belly.
Ooh. Hey, that's the
Oh.
second time that happened.
Yes, and that was the detail that Ed Ingemels pointed out. He was like, it just came down to you just pushing your knee, your hips down and putting that pressure and holding the mount.
You know,
You-
I just want to go back because I think you did like a super high step over.
Yeah.
Is that, and
Which they were like,
you,
next time
you could have like you could have done a like a knee slide or a knee cut, knee on belly kind of pass, which would have been
was more
safer.
probably simple to do.
Yeah.
Because then they were like, Ed and Chris were mentioning to me in class afterwards, you know, they're going to trap your leg at higher belts. So please don't do that again. And then they taught me how you can slide your knee all the way to the opposite armpit in a diagonal way, and then windscreen
wiper.
your
Yeah.
feet. Here again, I'm trying to get the cross choke. But I remember she was trying to push me with her shoulder and her elbow down. So then, therefore, I couldn't fully grip. So she was, in a way, trying to block the crossface because she knew it was coming. And as well, very tough opponent. She's very strong.
Were they from the same club, these two? Your two opponents?
Yeah, because when I tried to find them afterwards to just have a chat, I think they were gone by then, and I never managed to catch any patches on their gis that could mention their club. And then I've never seen them again in other comps. Ross loves standing in front of cameras.
He sure
It's not like Raspberry Ape, you know, when he goes really flat on the mat and he puts you were almost sleeping on it, watching refereeing the fights.
I can't say. Do you have like a high guard?
I almost have a high guard, but because she's wiggling and trying to come out of my guard,
now she's got her posture.
It goes lower.
Okay, that's the first half of that.
Yes.
Just a second.
Gosh, that was so boring. Don't you guys, or Jeff, you as a coach, don't you get bored of watching videos of your students competing?
Some matches are boring. I wouldn't consider that boring. There was activity by both people. Yeah, some matches are boring. The nature of the beast. I was kind of hoping to see whether we'd find an opponent that would want to stand up with you and try and trade throws, but clearly that's not going to happen.
Wait a minute.
No, and plus, I love throws, so I like to grip first and just go for that move.
Yeah.
I think some
people
sense it and they straight away either sit down or pull guard just to avoid that slam on the floor.
I just want to give me a second because there's that one. That should be. I'm trying to find the
second half should be of both of us in black gi sit like on the floor.
Yeah, I think it should be this video, but yes. Okay, here we go.
There we go. Yeah, so that would be a perfect, if you just rewind back for a moment, if you don't mind. So this is very common, forward a couple frames. So you're trying to break her posture, and she's lifting, she actually physically lifts you up off the mat here. That's how hard she's posturing. And at that moment there, the most effective way to break her posture would be to hip bump.
Yes.
Right? Because if you hip bump, she either lets you move forward into her and you take the sweep, end up in mount, or she resists hard by pushing forward and you can break. And just recognizing that moment, she's lifting you up off the mat. That's the moment. Push. you actually kind of push backward and to the side, like it's kind of at a diagonal over.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, very effective against white belts, especially.
However, in that moment, I couldn't even think of the hip bump. Complete tunnel vision. I was so focused on the crossface.
Sure.
Sorry, cross choke, that I just didn't think of the hip bump.
Yeah. No, tunnel vision is a perfect way of putting it, and we all get it, even those of us who aren't white belts.
So over here, I must say, I was struggling with her elbow on my chin.
Yeah.
Thank God for that mouth guard that I was wearing, because I think maybe a tooth
It hurt.
out of this fight.
I mean, it's great guard retention. It really is.
And
it's interesting. You also don't have the other judo habit of like turtling a lot, which you see, because in judo you're taught to turtle to avoid getting put on your back, but you don't do that.
In this fight in particular?
Or in any fight. I haven't seen you turtle once. You've always been rolling back to your shoulders and your back.
Yes. And because this naturally was something that I was doing, and this is the mistake I made in the judo fight, where I went straight on my back and I was like, oh, come at me. And then my coach was like, no, you're in judo. What are you doing? And I thought, oh, why do I naturally do this? So it was, for me, to turtle was less instinctive than to go on my back.
No, get out, Dipika. Almost. No.
Three.
And he's gonna give you because she's
passing the guard.
Yeah.
And then she's probably gonna mount, huh?
And then here I'm trying to protect my neck, and I thought she was gonna armbar me. It didn't happen. Yeah.
What? Oh, she's going for a choke or something? Oh, there's the mount. There's the mount points.
She's just
trying to go for the mount.
Driving her elbow into you.
I'm really trying to protect my neck in this situation, and my arm. And I really didn't want to go. I didn't want her to flatten me out.
Yeah. Oh.
So I was really trying to get out, but.
Time.
Both fights you were leading for the majority of the fight. Oh no.
Sad, right? Very sad.
No, not sad at all. Really, like
you only lost by a point there.
Yeah.
That to me, I think you burned out energy-wise.
Yes. Oh, complete burnout of energy.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
It looked by the end though, you'd run out of steam.
Yeah, 30 seconds into the fight, and I was thinking, oh, when is this going to end? And I've done this so many times where I gas out in less than a minute. But it's very different because in judo, it doesn't work in points. In judo, sorry, it does in the sense it works in either you win or you lose. In jiu-jitsu is 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, or submission, or you run out of time. In judo is get the grips and throw, be the first person to throw. So that's the mechanics I had for this fight. Whereas in my following competition, for which I don't have a video, which I won, it was a lot more flowing, it was a lot more relaxed, but yet aware of what my opponent was doing.
So do you have, I'd like to give you an opportunity now to give me your impressions of a competition that you won. Since we are going to show the world the competition which you lost, I'd like you to have, just take a few minutes and talk about what it's like to have competed and won. What was it like? What was the experience like?
Well, I'll start by talking about the one that I won in Jiu-Jitsu, which was my second one after this one. So our training camp was different. It was because I'd already had the experience of Cleos, I knew what I had to work on. So that's already something on the list, and visually, that's what you're aiming towards.
Mm.
Second of all, I had a great coach who was training all women then, who was Sophie Walters, as you guys know, European gold medals everywhere, silver world medalist. So she had so much understanding about what we had to work on. And as well as a white belt, because that competition was a white belt one as well, what are the expectations of a good white belt who's about to be a blue belt? So she was instilling those ideas and those moves in us.
Mm.
And then she taught us, she gave us many tools, and we picked and used the ones that suited us, each one of us. And in that fight in Chelmsford, I think it was 2016 or 17 as well, I can't quite remember the year, but it was very smooth because I was more confident, not only my competing abilities, but my jiu-jitsu understanding and skill ability. I was able to do a whizzer and then get her arm and like do an arm bar. I think it was that. And it was a much better fight in which I didn't exhaust myself in the first 30 seconds.
Mm.
And whichever position I was trying to aim for or that I got, I was holding it there for at least 4 seconds, because realistically when they go 1, 2, 3 points, I think it's 4 seconds that you really have to hold it rather than 3.
Mm. Mm.
So it was more aiming towards hold it for as long as you can until you get the points. So that was much better in terms of jiu-jitsu. And in terms of judo, I remember the one that I won in 6 seconds. It was euphoria. I was like, oh my God. And everyone is clapping and I'm thinking, don't clap, where's the video? And this was up in Sheffield, and it was with my teammates. And the girl as well, after losing, she said, well, wow, well done, like I didn't even think that you would go for a throw as fast as 6 seconds. But that's really the fight is about, you grab the opportunity when it's presented and you give it your 100%. And it was a very, I will never forget it. It's maybe it'll never happen again to win this book, but it's a good marker to also, as a part-time athlete, to know that yes, you can get there. And even though there are other competitions where you think you're doing better, but the end result is you lose, you should never forget that there are going to be times where if everything aligns of what the opponent does, how you feel, how you executed the move, and how it turned out, that you can still win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you trained for the competition that you won. You trained under Sophie Walters, is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like the training was substantially different under a woman black belt professor rather than a man? Did you see that there was a difference there in her approach to teaching you because she had the knowledge of what it was like to compete and to fight as a woman?
Yes, there was a difference. I don't think in terms of quality, both men and women that were teaching at Mill Hill had good quality in the way they taught. However, there's a very subtle difference in how women fight and how men fight. And these subtle differences are picked more by someone, obviously a woman who's an incredible fighter. She's amazing. And, the way she taught us was crystal clear. You don't have a doubt. And she's very thorough as well. And but also, if there was something that we weren't getting, she was able to show us or teach us. And there are things, the subtle differences are things like, and I hold up my hands if this is not this way, but when men do knee slices, there's a certain separation. You don't knee slice right in the groin. Yeah. And
Jeff does, but
You are? Okay.
but when it comes to women, I can guarantee you that knee slice, you're going to feel it as high as your pelvic floor. Like those muscles are going to be felt. And your guard, there's no gap.
Right.
Men, I feel like there's always like a tiny inch that, and you know, not every man is like this, but most women that I drill with stuff, they're very technical. And I think it's because in comparison to let's say my body weight, in comparison to an 80 kg man body weight, our strength are going to be different. Even if I do my strength and conditioning and I do my weights, my strength level is always going to be mismatched, even if the differences are tiny. So then I have to heavily rely on technique, because if it's just brutal force, you know, he's going to overpower me.
Mm-hmm.
So with women, it's more technical. And it felt really nice to be coached by a female athlete, because who's also very accomplished, because it gives you the sense of she's the marker of your club. This is the level that is not saying that everyone should aim for that, but for me it was a marker where, you know, how high is she raising the bar in the club, and where I can look up to. So that was very, very good.
I think it's fantastic you're saying that. I have often spoken to some of my teammates, some of my students, about having a women's only session or a women's only class. And I think there's a place for that in BJJ, though my problem has always been that I don't feel that I feel like if we were to do something like that, I couldn't be the teacher. I couldn't be the teacher. Fayed Gavin could not be the teacher. It would need to be a woman who teaches that. And I think it's for the very reason that you've said. You need to be able to see yourself in your teacher in some way, right? And you need to, of course, the connection is important. And, you know, if we train together, we have that connection, but there's always going to be, like you say, a division there because of the way our bodies move differently. But also you can't look at me and say, I could be that one day, because we're just fundamentally different, not in a bad way, just in a way.
Just
And right. And I think it's integral for a student to be able to look at their teacher and see themselves in that person. And that can only really be achieved if the teacher is, especially for a women's only class, if the teacher is a woman. And yeah, so I find it really interesting that you say that, and I see a lot of wisdom in what you're saying.
Yes, I was gonna say she's accomplished, but also she's very grounded and humble. And I know she's so humble that when you try and praise her, she never takes credit for it. But she really is a woman that high caliber. I mean, you're talking about silver medalist world, gold medalist European at purple belt. You know, that's not a joke. And to get there, she probably did millions of competitions here and there, Rome Open, this and that, because it you know, you want to make sure that everywhere possible you compete and you win, because that also is an indication of how well you're going to perform at the big events. And so to have her, you know, day in and day out, coming in 5, 6, 7 times a week, drilling and giving it her best was really admirable. And it's something that because we're the same gender, you can relate to so easily, because, you know, this is something that I only started studying recently, and how the hormone cycle and the menstrual cycle can affect performance for women in their sports. And it's often overlooked, but these are the little nuances that every woman feels differently, but still feels it, that can affect the performance. And it's that fact that regardless of all these little obstacles, you still push through and you can accomplish things. And the energy, I think the energy was very different as well, because I know with men I can talk, but with women there's a whole set of different conversations that you can have. Like, what are you having for dinner? Like, and these are things that with a guy, I don't know, you'll just be like, oh, it's just a strange thing to ask. Unless you're very close to the person. Yeah. And I think more and more women are doing jiu-jitsu, which is great
Great.
thing. And I think the retention is becoming, as years go by, the retention of women staying in the sport is much higher. But it's because we've got, also aside from Sophie Walters, outside in the world you've got, you know, Leonie Munslow, Fionn Davis, you've got Fifi, you've got so many people, like, and other women like Jazari, you've got Mackenzie, you've got so many different women that are there. Or Amal, you know, the teenage girl, I think she's a prodigy because she's a teenager, and I think, what, she would beat me up. But it's women that are there, out there, showing you what, you know, paving the way for us, I think.
Totally agree. And I see, so it's a combination of more women in the sport, which is amazing, and the women who are in the sport are more visible, which is also amazing. And I think in the recent past, the last couple of years, there have been some pretty high profile news items that have come out of some clubs, some pretty negative stuff. Ricardo de la Hiva would be one of them, an example of somebody who many people looked up to, and then it kind of came out that maybe there was some not so good stuff that was happening at his club. And I worry that sometimes people think that the perception is that there is a lot of anti-women sentiment in BJJ. And I don't think that's the case. I think that it does exist, but I don't think that it's as pervasive as it might seem on the surface. I think the reason why we're hearing about it now is that people are actually, they feel safe enough in our culture to speak up about it.
Yes.
It probably has always been the case that it's been a macho sport, but in the past, people just wouldn't have talked about it. It just would have been something that was kept mum because people weren't comfortable enough. I say people, women weren't comfortable enough to open up about it. But now, because there are these high profile fighters, you know, Fionn Davies, who is fantastic, isn't she amazing? Bia Mesquita is another one of my favorites. She is as decorated a BJJ practitioner as any man is in the sport, has won the world's, like, I don't even know, it's something crazy, like 11 times. I could be wrong. I mean, I should probably look it up before I say something like that. But
It's a big
it's
number.
a big number, and she gets, I mean, I don't think she gets the kudos that she should, probably because she's a woman, but there are these high profile people now, and it's coming out. People are not going to stand for funny business any longer, and I think that's wonderful. There are always going to be some people who try it on, who try to do stupid stuff, but as long as people feel safe enough to open up about it and say, we're not happy about this, that's key, you know. And these high profile women in our sport are perhaps giving other people who aren't as high profile a little bit of a platform on which to be feeling safe to say, hey, I'm not cool with this, or whatever.
Yes, I think there's so many things you've mentioned that I agree on. And as well, I think I can, and this is completely outside of, I'm talking as a woman who knows other women. At some point, all of us have been touched, molested, but not, I'm not saying molested in that deep sense, but there's always going to be degrees at which
inappropriately touched.
Yeah, inappropriately touched, and that doesn't only happen on the mats, but it's on the streets. And surprisingly, sometimes it's people that are within your vicinity, that people that kind of know you, and they inappropriately touch you or say something. So I have not had one friend who said she's free from that. That in her life she's never experienced that. That guarantee you, all my girls have gone through that, including my mother. So it's like women who are in whichever age you are, you're still going to experience it. Now, I think the reason why they're coming out as well is because finally, you know, it doesn't make it, but this is again individual to everyone. Finally, it doesn't make it sound like we're making up stuff. You know, because back then no one would believe you, because those coaches are idolized and they're put up on a pedestal. And this is just generally speaking, not De La Riva in particular, but whoever, let's say a man who has got such a charismatic personality that carries himself with integrity, you can't possibly picture him doing something quite the opposite. But any person can do it. It doesn't boil down to what you portray to be as. So I think that's very important, that people have spoken up and not being judged for it. I myself, there's been 1 or 2 occasions where I've been inappropriately touched on the mat, and I've clocked on it. And there's always different reactions to how you react. So I know people there's fight or flight mode, but I always there's 1/3 one, it's called freeze. Like I freeze when that happens to me, and I'm a fighter and I've fought, for most of my life, but you're still a human being. And when you get inappropriately touched, the first instinct for me is to go, what just happened? And then it takes me a few hours to digest it. And then finally I share it maybe with someone that is very close to me in the club. And that person will say, well, this is wrong. You should go point it out. And then is that hesitation to point it out as well? Because you think, oh, I don't want to cause conflict. I don't want to, point fingers at anyone. But then it's important that, I've realized it's important that you have to speak about it. But
and so in the if you don't mind saying, in those instances, did you call the person out or address it, or how did it resolve itself somehow?
Well, no, because the first time it ever happened, so I was in no-gi and I was on my 4s. And when you're on your 4s, a person goes from underneath and grabs your elbow and pulls to then put you flat on your back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, we were talking earlier about, what your opponent is going to do. And because you've been rolling with men, when it's a fight, and when when they've gripped in the wrong place, it's really been accidental. So the difference when someone grips and it's not been accidental. Mm. So this person in particular, instead of just doing this and then grabbing my elbow and pulling it, went like this. Mm. And then you see like the whole hand sliding through here. And I'm thinking, what just happened? And I froze because I went on my back. And in my head, I'm thinking, surely I misinterpreted it. Like, surely that wasn't what happened. But then outside of Jiu-Jitsu, all my supporting people, but whichever gender, wherever you fall into that gender spectrum, they've always said, trust your body, trust your gut, because that's already signaling you something that is not right. So I explained it to my close friends, and then they said it's inappropriate. You should go tell your coach. So I went up to my coach and I said, this has happened. And he said, I'm never going to pair you up with him ever again. Don't worry about it. So the approach was very supportive. But you do get these moments where I personally freeze. I don't know about other women, how they react, but.
So as your friends, and I'm now speaking in a way to all of my teammates, my colleagues, my friends who train BJJ, men and women, but particularly men. I'm asking you a question as your friend, your teammate, your family member, because we're all family members now. How best can I support you for these things? Like what can I do as a male teammate to make things as good for you, as open for you as possible for this kind of thing? Do you know what I mean? Like, I guess to make you feel as comfortable as possible for when these kind of inappropriate touchings happen, that you feel like you can take whatever action you need to take. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll speak for myself, because the way I see it is that most lads that I've rolled with are great. And it boils down to the fact that they understand that whilst it's a heavily male-dominated sport, now the narrative is changing. And now it's a sport in which any gender is welcome. You don't have to be justifying who you are to like and do the sport. So I think the narrative is changing, but there are still instances where, because we get an influx of people from different backgrounds, cultural understandings, there are still instances where friendliness is confused with something else, whereas all you're trying to be is a teammate and have a friendly vibe. So as a coach, I think that responsibility of foreseeing things shouldn't be there, because it's a burden on yourself, because you can't foresee things that will happen whilst people are rolling, if that makes sense. But I think if you have a relationship or good relationship with all your members, then I think that comfort level of a female, or it can happen to any other person as well, like it can go both ways, so it's not just boiling down to females. But if that relationship of yours is comfortable enough and approachable, so then when it happens, they can come up to you and share their worries and explain maybe something that they experienced that felt uncomfortable, that you could address it. I think that's very important. So that relationship of coach and student is very important. But also I think if the club is small enough, I think in instances where the club is really big and you see people in and out quite often might be hard, but touching base with everyone could be a way forward. I'm just thinking now, it's more soundboard, right? I'm just thinking aloud. But if you touch base with someone and say, how are you doing? How's jiu-jitsu? Is there anything you want to work on? How are you finding
your training partners?
Yeah, your training partners. So I think that having that little conversation that might be an icebreaker to something and an opener to something else.
That's good. Yeah, that's really, really wise, really sensible.
Yeah, but as I said, in all the years that I've trained, maybe I've experienced maybe once or twice or maybe three times that I've had not so good experiences. But most of you guys are like very respectful and understand that we can all share the mat.
Oh, that's good to hear. Well, I think this has been terrific. We could probably do this for another like 3 or 4 hours, but let's call an end to proceedings now. Thank you, Dipika, so much for this. I just love it. I love talking to you, and I love watching footage. I'd love to do this again. Maybe when we can find some more footage of you kicking somebody's ass, we can do another one. But thank you again for coming on, and I hope to see you on the mat soon.
Yeah, no, I was going to say thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah,
I'm very humbled because, I'm very humbled. That's all I can say. It's an honor to have been asked to do this, and happy to share, my experiences and as well through this conversation, I've learned a lot, which I'm going to be applying on the mats whenever we're able to go back. And yeah, before I go, I wanted to mention something funny. So I recently bought a tatami gi, which is lovely. And as a gift, I got this face mask. Now, it's very beautiful. However, if tatami is watching this, I think it's only made for bushesha, because my face is so big for this face mask. It's like, and then when I'm talking, hi, how are you? So naturally, I'm like trying to curl it at the back, and it's still big. Look at this. I can't see myself. So I feel like this is the measurement. Look, it's sliding down. This is made for bushesha space, because my face is not that big.
It's an F4 face mask sold to an F2 gi.
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, Well said. Well said. Yeah. Sammy, lovely gift, but it needs some adjusting.
Awesome. Thanks, Dipika. Check it out, Tales by Dipika on Instagram, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much, everyone.